Okay, what we're going to do is create a pivot table and use that pivot table as the source for a number of tables. We will learn how to format those tables and to create a chart or a graphic of some sort out of them. Right, so what we have here is the information that we've been using for all of the videos. And so what I'm going to do is select everything that we have here, all of these columns. I am going to create a pivot table from them. So this is popping up on another sheet, and what we see here is the columns are sectors, sectors 1, 2, 3, and 4. What we have on the rows are the activities in this case. So this is activity codes 1 through 9. And then in the substance of the table, what we are looking at here, just to verify, is the tax value. Right now it's by count. What I want to do is just create a number of tables that show the average tax value associated with them. So you'll see that the pivot table is sort of modifying for the average tax value by sector and by activity code. Right, as a reminder, we've got the grand total here. This column is the grand total of the average tax value of all sectors, activity 1, right, activity 2, and so on. What we have here is the average tax value for all parcels in sector 1, sector 2, sector 3, and sector 4, so on. Alright, so what we need to do is to get this information into another sheet, kind of remove the formatting and the functionality of the pivot table, and then work from there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, and I'm remembering I'm dealing with activity, so Control C to copy. I am going to create another sheet, inserting it here, and I'll just call this raw tables. Okay. And, cell B2, kind of giving me some space in the margins here for anything I might want to do. If I just go ahead and paste what I have copied to the clipboard, I'm pasting the entire functionality of the pivot table. That's not what we want. So I'm going to Control Z to undo that. And what I'm going to do is right-click, paste special, and paste that table as values. And we get something like this. Alright, so one of the things that I want to remember, because I'm going to be doing this repetitively for each of the LBCS dimensions, this gives me the information of the average tax value, so I know what that is. In terms of the row labels, I want to remind myself that this is actually the activity LBCS column right here in that table, and I've got these sectors across there. Alright, that's fine. I'm going to just go ahead and keep it this way. Alright, so once I've done that, I go back to the original pivot table. It's still in the sheet where it was pasted. And what I want to do is I want to change the pivot table to display not activity anymore, but function. It's going to be the average total tax value by function by sector. So I have this here, and what I'm going to do is just go ahead, copy, Control C, go back to the raw table page. I'm going to go here, and again, instead of pasting the pivot table, I just want to paste the values that were displayed in that pivot table. You'll notice it looks nearly the same as what we have up here. I want to remind myself that this is function. Alright, so I repeat this. Switch from function, go to structure. Okay, and I'm going to copy this. Go to raw tables, paste. Oh, made a mistake. Control Z. My paste, I want to be sure I am going to be pasting values. Alright, so I've got that. That was structure, just to remind myself. Okay, so we continue this for the other two dimensions. We get the idea. So what I'm going to do is just focus on activity here. And what I want to do is to create a nice table from this. One of the things that I want to do is be mindful of not necessarily the activity code single digits, but the actual descriptions for them, and provide myself with a little bit more description of these sectors or these areas. And just to clean up the table a little bit here, what I'm going to do is delete where I see blank, and then it can be just sort of mess up the table a little bit, and I'll just get rid of these columns right here. Alright, a little bit cleaner. One of the things that I did beforehand, you'll notice on the bottom, I've got this sheet right here, but I created, just for my purposes here, LBCS one digit, and what this basically is I've got the 9 single digits right here, and then for activity, function, ownership, site, and structure, what I did is I put in the a brief but what is a more or less full description of what activity code 1 is, of what function code 1 is, of what ownership code 1 is, and so on. Okay, so since I'm doing the activity table, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that, go to my raw tables, and I'm just going to go ahead and paste it right here. Right, I've got that information here, and then this really isn't all that descriptive either. So what I've done here is just created sector 1 through sector 4. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go to my tables and paste this along the top. Alright, so I've got this information here. This is really nice. If I'm going to be creating a table here, I've got a couple of options in terms of formatting. So if I'm looking at all of these values right here, I can, just off the top, format them as dollars. But you'll see everything's got a dollar sign. It just really clutters things up in a different way than just the raw data. So usually what I do in these circumstances, I'll just create a number of them, and I have formatted this at the, we'll do to the second digit, so we can say in the description that these are dollar values right here, and it's just understood. Right? Looks a lot cleaner than this. It looks a lot cleaner than putting a dollar sign in front of everything. Alright, so once I have this, to create a nice table, again, what I like to see in tables are just horizontal lines. I don't like to see vertical lines. Again, they sort of mess things up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of widen this a little bit. And to sort of get started on the lines, right, for the column, these column headers right here, what I want to do is I want to create a border that has top and bottom. I want to create a small separator right here for something just above the grand total, and I'm going to put a line below, a bottom border. Okay, and so I just basically have something that looks like this. Very clean, there's nothing very fancy, there's nothing very cluttery. The spaces in between the columns basically give us a good idea of what's going on. And I think also, at least for these column headers, what I want to do is have center alignment there. I just cleaned it up a little bit more. I don't want to do the same thing for this because it can be, for example, a little bit distracting because I have $110, a 3-digit number right here. If I centered that, things look a little bit lumpy to me right there. Right? This is just what I prefer. Alright, so we've got this. What I want to do is I want to create the title for this. And what I want to do is I want to get rid of this column label. So what I have right here is, let me see, per square foot value of LBCS activities by sector. Okay, that's all I really need right there. That does it for me. You'll notice that that the title here spans columns, and what I want to do, just to sort of be more flexible, I am going to copy all of the columns across that span the table right here, and I'm just going to go ahead and merge them. Click on Merge Cells. Okay, and so I've got all this right here, and I'll leave it at that. And the last thing, I will take the column headers and I just control bead them, and so those are bolded, and so it gives me some sort of differentiation there. All right, I want to do the same thing for all of these columns, or excuse me, all of these other tables right here in exactly the same way. I've got function right there, so again, all I need to do is copy these right here, take them back to the tables, paste them, right? I've got all of that, right? And basically all we need to do are just minor adjustments for everything else. All right, so I've got that table. I can then copy and paste this table into the document if I wish. I can also use these tables as a way of creating graphs, charts, things of that nature. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to find a way of creating a table with this. So what I'm going to do is just copy this much right here, and I'm not going to do the grand total. In fact, I'm not going to do any of the grand totals. So just all of the activities, all of the sectors, avoiding the grand totals. I'm going to click on charts right here. I'm going to click on column. And what we're able to do in this is do a clustered column chart. You know, 2D is good, 3D is okay, but you get too fancy with them, it's something that it might be a little bit distracting. Just for the sake of perhaps some three-dimensionality, I'm going to click on 3D cluster. What happens is that the chart opens up in a as a sort of window within this table right here. And what I would like to do, just to get a sort of better picture of things, I want to take this chart and I want to place it in a tab along the bottom. And the way that we go about doing that is by right-clicking on the chart area. We see a selection here for Move Chart. I click on that. We have the option of moving it to a new sheet. I want to make that selection, and I'll just call this activity chart. Hit OK, and you'll notice I've got activity chart within the table here. I like it because it's blown up. I can finesse things in here if I wish. And then what we have is this grouping here, and because we selected the column and the row headers, they show up in here just fine. Sector 1 through Sector 4. I've got the dollar values right here. What's missing is the actual table for this chart right here, and we can insert one pretty quickly. But again, what we're looking at here is each of these activity codes right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. And within each of these activity codes, I'm looking at Sector 1, 2, 3, and 4. Right, so I have a really good overview of all the slicing and dicing that we've done with that. That's great. All right, so what we're going to do is put in a title. So I click on Chart Layout, Chart Title. All right, so I'm going to put the title above the chart. Triple click on it to select everything. And what is this? Per square foot value of parcels by activity and area. That's good enough there. One of the things that I may want to do in terms of this, let me see, axis title, let me see. LBCS activity dimension, and then vertical axis title, have that rotated, and we will call this, okay, dollars per square foot. All right. So we've got this, got everything we want. We now are able to copy this, export this into into the document. I would prefer that we save this as an image, place the image in the document, as opposed to, say, copying, or excuse me, not copying, but dragging this into the document as sort of an active Excel chart. So anyways, this is the way to get a chart going.